So we're doing this week to launch coming back to hopefully full-ish time, because I do this broadcast from Monday to Friday at noon. There is a reason for this. We need to empower people to advocate for themselves. Also expose the real challenges within modern healthcare systems today, and do it without attacking individuals and addressing the systemic issues. So this is what we're going to do this week on the Beehive Live. It's been a while since I've actually done a regularly scheduled show. That's why I was sort of fumbling, because there's been so many changes around here, and I've been trying to muddle my way through and get back to broadcasting the show. So this week, aside from Wednesday, I will be here every day at 12 p.m. Central Time. So you can find me here. We're going to be covering medical self-advocacy tomorrow, hopefully, provided everything is going okay. I will be having a very special guest on the show. Usually I do guests, if you're familiar with my show, I do guest appearances on Tuesdays, sometimes Thursdays, depending on the amount of requests I get to have guests come on to the show. So let's get started. We're going to talk about the reality of navigating healthcare. This is Medical Self-Advocacy Week. Welcome to the Beehive Live broadcast. We're diving deep into the thick of it. We here replace the real with the real, because there's something that I believe firmly in, and that is authenticity and being real. There's too much stuff out there right now that is not real. This is a place where we talk about things that most people don't say out loud, or they whisper about it privately. So here at the Beehive, we believe in that kindness has no cost. We lead with love, and we show up unapologetically, authentically, because real is important. Real is not happening enough anymore. And sometimes being unapologetic and authentic means having hard conversations, and conversations that are uncomfortable, because that is where growth lives. So today I am documenting everything. I'm going to document all of the wisdom that comes through on the chat today. I'm going to document the entire show. I will be putting it onto our YouTube channel. So if you're interested in following our YouTube channel, you can look for the Beehive broadcast on YouTube. You can also find me across other platforms too, although I'm not all that active, because my energy is focused to this, and of course to my family. So today's conversation might make people uncomfortable, but that's okay, because here, the Beehive, we believe growth happens when we can sit comfortably with the discomfort. Today we're talking about something that affects every single person right now, and that's healthcare. So we're talking about every single person that's listening right now about healthcare, because every single person will be at one point or another in their life affected by healthcare. And more specifically, we're going to talk about what happens when the system fails the people that it's meant to protect. I told a story a while ago about a woman that I witnessed in an emergency room. Her husband brought her in, and she was in a mental crisis. And I told this story because I think it was really important to acknowledge that it was an example of a system failing a person. And it was traumatic not only for her, because This is a place where people go and they're supposed to be able to receive help when they're having a crisis. Whether it is mental or physical, it doesn't matter. You're all one person. That's all part of your body. The hospital is supposed to be a place for you to go safely and get help. And that isn't what happened. And I may get into that story a little bit later on in the week. I'm not going to tell it again today, but it was quite traumatic, not just for the woman that was involved, but also for all of the people who were watching it happen in real time. So what does happen when the system fails people that it's meant to protect? That's what we're talking about today. What happens when our symptoms are dismissed, when patients are told it's just anxiety. And now, when I say that, I don't say it lightly, because anxiety is a real thing that can cause a lot of problems for a lot of people, physical and mental. When loved ones know something is wrong and no one is listening. So this week, this is why we're talking about medical self-advocacy. Not because doctors are enemies. That's not at all what I'm trying to say here. But it's because the systems can fail. And when systems fail, people get hurt. And so by sharing some advocacy tools and tips with people, yes, it is very important. It is important because we need to know how to not only help ourselves, but also to help our loved ones if we need to be in a position of advocacy for them. The Beehive, we believe in replacing the real with the real. We believe that kindness has no cost. I'm going to go over this again because it is so true, and we need to lead with love even when the truth is uncomfortable. Misty, you showed me a lot of examples of that, and thank you. Today we're opening a conversation that many people are afraid to have because sometimes speaking up is what saves lives. And that said, I'm going to kind of skip into our guest tomorrow. If you do come back to watch the show tomorrow, I'm going to put a trigger warning on it, or a content warning on it, because it will be very emotional and maybe a little too much for some people to hear if you're sensitive, okay? So sometimes speaking up is what saves lives. Sometimes advocacy is just simply asking questions. And I'm going to give you an example of that. A couple of years ago, I had to fly halfway across the country, help my father with my mother. My mother had Parkinson's disease. She was quite advanced. Dementia had set in, and we need to get her placed into a facility so that she could get the care that was beyond his capacity at this point. Before I got there, she'd gone to the hospital. She had fallen and cracked her pelvis. And so she was admitted to the hospital, and she was in the hospital. I hadn't been there in a few years because I deal with a lot of chronic issues myself, so travel is difficult for me. I didn't realize how bad it had gotten for my parents, and they were still living in their own home. But the safety of their lives was really at risk with the situation the way that it was, and that was a really hard thing to navigate. But that said, we're on the advocacy topic this week. So when I got there, my father took me to the hospital, and my mother was in full body tremors, soaking wet from head to toe. She saw me standing outside the door. At that time, there was a COVID lockdown on her floor, so we had to get gown on and gloves on and mask on and all the stuff before going into a room. And she saw me, and she was strapped to the bed. Underneath of her gown, underneath her gown. And in these full body tremors, the strap was like rubbing on her bare skin. And I mean, you know, she's an old lady, right? So she has quite thin skin, and it's, I can't even imagine. Her feet were hitting the bottom of the bed. So immediately I looked at my father and I said, go get the nurse right now. And he could see that I was mad. I asked, why is she strapped to the bed? At first I asked my father, did the hospital call you to tell you or to ask you if they could restrain her in this way? And he said no. So, number one, bad. Two, I got the nurse. It was 2:30 in the afternoon. I said, go get the nurse. He says to me, please, Angela, I want to make sure that she's getting care, and if we say something, maybe they won't look after her anymore. And I wanted to vomit, honestly, if I'm being 100% truthful. That comment made me want to vomit. That just tells me how much failure there is within our system and why this is such an important week and an important topic. I asked him, go get the nurse. I didn't ask him. I told him, go get the nurse. And when the nurse came in, I said, why is she strapped to the bed? Oh, that was the night staff. I don't know. My second comment was, it's 2:30 in the afternoon. So are you telling me that nobody has even checked on my mother since the night staff, since shift change from night staff to day staff? Because that's like 7 hours ago almost now. That was really hard. So then I said, I want to talk to the floor doctor. I want to talk to the occupational therapist. I want to talk to the physiotherapist. I want a list of all of the medications that you are giving her right now. And I want that today. We left. My father said to me in the car, we went first to eat. He said to me in the car, please don't push them. I want to make sure that she's getting care. And I said to him, there is a difference between being mean and asking for the care that she is supposed to be being given. We are allowed to ask questions. It is important to ask questions. She does not have a voice for herself anymore, and so that becomes your job now. And in order for her to get proper care, you need to advocate for her, speak for her, and monitor what they're doing. So teaching somebody, first off, that asking questions is okay. It's not causing trouble. It's not being mean. It's asking questions. You are allowed to ask questions. We need to ask questions. We need to ask questions. So, what is medical self-advocacy? Well, it is exactly that. This week we're talking about something it touches every single human being at some point in life, and that's healthcare. More specifically, we're talking about medical self-advocacy. I live in North America, where Western medicine is practiced primarily. And in the Western world, many people grow up believing that doctors know everything and the system works the way it should. And when we feel sick, we go to the doctor, they give us some pills, we get better. Right? That's what we believe if we're not sick. That's what we believe. But the truth is, what many people experience is very different. Symptoms are dismissed. So what happens when you go see the doctor and your symptoms are dismissed? What happens if there's no presentation of fever, your vital signs all check out? So the doctor says, go home. If things get worse, make another appointment. Okay. What happens when those concerns are minimized? What happens? You don't get any better within a week or two, so you book that appointment because the doctor said, if you don't get better, come back and see me in a couple of weeks. So you book that other appointment to discuss your concerns at a little more length, because you've been feeling sick for a while now. I mean, you didn't make the original appointment for no reason, right? You had been feeling sick already. When concerns are minimized, right, you don't get any better within a week or two, so you book that second appointment. You've been feeling sick, and the concerns are minimized. Again, doctor says, everything looks good. Everything looks good. What does that mean? That means that you have no signs of active infection in a lab result. Your blood pressure and heart rate and temperature are all good. That's what that means. Your maybe you had an electrocardiogram or an EKG, an ECG, and that looked okay. So the doctor's listening to your concerns, saying, everything looks good. Everything looks good. So you might start to feel like you're exaggerating your symptoms. You might start to ignore the signals that your brain and your body are sending you, because we don't feel these things for no reason. There is always a reason why we feel sick, whether it's something to do with your brain or something to do with your body. There's always a reason why we feel sick. There is a reason why you have anxiety. There is a reason why you feel those feelings. That is built into us to help us. It is intuition. It is our body's way of telling us that there is something going on and it needs to be taken care of right now. Okay, so now let's just say months have gone by and you're not getting better, and the symptoms you're experiencing affecting your daily life now. Maybe you've missed some time off work. Maybe you've missed enough time to the point where your boss comes to you and says, you don't have a job anymore. You're not getting better. So you go back to the doctor again. Talk about the same things again. Maybe you've already even done your own research on stuff, and so you have some insight, and you mention your findings, or you suggest a test that maybe your doctor could investigate something. And the doctor tells you, stop Googling. Stop Googling. And then they label you difficult because it's a sneaky move, but it happens. Your vital signs are still okay. Stop Googling. Don't look up anything anymore. I went to school. You went to Google. sometimes that gets noted in your medical chart as difficult. You're a difficult patient, too needy, too demanding. Why are these things a problem? Why are they such a huge problem? Diagnosis get delayed, so more time passes, your symptoms still remain. You're reluctantly at this point. Because think about this. You've made your initial appointment, you made a second appointment, you've gone to a third appointment. Every single time they say, everything's fine, you're good. Yes. Going to a different doctor. That is responsible self-advocacy. So we're talking about self-advocacy, medical self-advocacy this week. The diagnoses are delayed when you get dismissed. You make your next appointment with your doctor. You point out it's been an ongoing issue for several months, for several years, or worse, for decades. The doctor finally agrees to either do some additional diagnostic testing or maybe refers you to a specialized physician. Here's a question. Have you ever felt dismissed by a medical professional when you knew something was wrong? Yeah. So here's today's little drop of honey from the Hive. Healthcare systems are built by humans. And anything built by humans can fail. That's why your voice matters. Because silence doesn't fix broken systems. Speaking up does. And that is our little truth with a lot of meaning. I am recording this episode. I'm taking notes on all of your comments in the chat. I value insights. I value everything you put in there. If I don't acknowledge you, I apologize. It will be acknowledged, or it is getting acknowledged, I should say, because this is, something that we need. We need to talk about this. We need to go over this, whether it's uncomfortable or not, whether people want to hear it or not. Self-advocacy and advocacy within the medical system is a massively important thing right now, especially in my country where I live, because we are very short-staffed on medical professionals, and it feels like there's a lot of extra pushing that has to happen. So it's the system versus the individual, right? Because the system, even though it was built by humans, it's not working for us. I don't know if anybody else has noticed, but it isn't working for us. I have a chronic illness, and I am permanently disabled now. I live at home. Of course I live at home. I am at home 98% of the time. I do not leave my house. So it's a system versus the individual, and when the patients are not heard, what happens? Medical self-advocacy is really about making a request for medical care and then ensuring that you get the appropriate care. So here's the catch there, because we're not medical professionals, we are the patients, right? So how do you ensure you get the appropriate care when you don't know what the appropriate care is? So when patients go unheard for long periods of time, this can cause a cascade of events to happen, like delayed diagnosis, progression of certain medical conditions, or worse, fatalities. Our guest this week on the Hive will discuss her own personal experiences and outcomes of those experiences. So that's tomorrow. I'll be back here the same time tomorrow, 12 noon Central Time. So you'll hear her tragic story tomorrow on our live episode. If you do miss tomorrow or today, all episodes are going to be available going forward to watch on our YouTube channel, which is the Hive broadcast on YouTube. So head over there after today's episode, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future episodes. I'm going to get better at making these recordings and editing and getting them out there. So this conversation is not about attacking health workers. So I'm just going to be just going to reiterate that this is not about attacking the healthcare workers, because many of them are incredible people working inside of an extremely overwhelmed and extremely fragmented system. These systems are of human design. Remember what I said, anything a human makes can fail, because we're not perfect. No structure that we create is either. We do get better as we learn. So by design, human beings are flawed, and these systems can and they do fail. And when systems fail, people get hurt. So let's talk about patient abuse. And I think Jamie brought this up a little bit before. It's hard to see somebody not getting the proper care when they're in care. So let's talk about medical gaslighting, and why patients often feel so intimidated in medical settings. Medical gaslighting is when a patient tells you something is wrong with their body, and instead of investigating, they're told it's anxiety. They're told they're overreacting. They're told it's stress. So why are people sometimes labeled anxious instead of investigated medically? What's the problem with that? Sometimes anxiety is the result of the body trying to survive something serious. And when we dismiss people, we delay answers. That delays diagnosis, is bias in healthcare, chronic illness dismissal, and disability misunderstanding. So why do some people stop seeking care altogether? This can be a result of the emotional toll of not being believed. And that is a real thing, which is incredibly dangerous, especially for people that have serious medical problems. Have you, and I know that this is going to probably see a few yeses in here, have you ever felt dismissed by a medical professional? I know a couple of you already said yes to that question, but I'm going to ask it again. Have you ever felt dismissed by a medical professional? Have you ever gone to the doctor and had them say, well, everything looks good. Doesn't matter that you tell me that your hips keep dislocating every time you walk. It's fine. Your blood work's good. That's personal experience. So just, did you advocate for yourself when that happened? So when you went to the doctor, I hate that one. Just lose weight. I've been told that. I was told that when I was underweight. Well, you need to lose some weight. Come on, are you kidding me? Did you advocate for yourself when that happened? And if you did, what did you say? What did you do? What was the outcome? I'm going to give you an example of something that happened to me once. So, I have a genetic condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, or EDS, and it's pretty rare. And doctors don't look for it ever, right? It's a genetic inherent mutation. It's a autosomal dominant inherent condition, because it's a broken system, and I don't think anybody really understands how to work within it. So whether it's the person working in it or the person trying to access the service, right? I know I want to encourage respectful discussion, but it's really hard for me because of some of the things that I've experienced within that system. It's not necessarily the people. They're equally as frustrated as me, right? But the answer is not to dismiss the patient. It doesn't make the problem go away. if you don't know the answer to what is happening with that particular person, then send them to somebody who might be able to figure it out, right? And when I say that our system is so fragmented, it is, right? So if you go in to see a medical professional about my mouth hurts, okay? Let's just use that for an example. I'm in the Western world. My mouth hurts. My jaw is aching. You go to the doctor, and they say, go to the dentist. Okay, I just wasted some time. Go to the dentist. Dentist takes some x-rays. Now, you have something going on with your actual jaw, so it becomes a doctor problem again. We'll send you back to your doctor, and then your doctor will just send you to another doctor, who might even send you to another doctor. Lots of doctors. So the system is very fragmented. If you don't really know the type of specialist that you need to see when you see your primary care practitioner, it's up to them to know, right? But they don't always know. So it's very much about working together and having a care team that you have the ability to work with. Yeah, yes, underweight's fine. Oh, you look great. Oh, good Lord. What was the outcome? So I went to a doctor. I was in the beginning process of having my issues investigated, because I've been sick off and on my whole life. And my regular doctor retired, something, I can't remember what happened, moved, I don't know. And, that's awful. I had to find a new doctor. So the first one I found, I went in, I was in, like I said, I was in the process of being investigated for different things. And I went in, and I had been off work for a couple of months by this point. And I went in and I was talking to this doctor, and he agreed to take me on as a patient. And I went in to discuss with him some disability forms that I was requesting be filled out because I wasn't able to work. And he said to me, oh no, you won't get approved for these, so I'm not going to fill them out. Well, first of all, you're not a government employee, so you don't make those decisions, but okay. And then he said, he's the one that told me to lose weight. I think I was around 130 pounds. All right, like, that's not very much. Like, I'm not overweight anyway. Maybe I am a little bit now, but he told me to lose weight. That was, 5 or 10 pounds overweight or something like that. And he told me that the government program I was applying for, which would give me a rebate on my taxes, essentially, I wouldn't qualify because I wasn't actually disabled. And I said, what do you mean I'm not? Like, well, you walk and you talk. That was his response to me. You walk and you talk. Oh. And so immediately I said, so I come to you for help as my doctor because I am experiencing this, and this. Well, I already had a couple of diagnoses by that point, and a couple of specialist doctors as well. Okay, I was 49 years old when I finally got diagnosed with EDS. 49. That's a long time. Like, my mom and dad started taking me to the doctor when I was 6 or younger, maybe even. And by the time I was 7 years old, I had a neurologist. Like, it's the redhead gene, man. Damn mutations. So we're here on this show. Oh man, it's hard, right? Like, I think most redheads, if I'm honest, I think most redheads have some type of autoimmune disease. So I have a few different things. It comes from my mutations, though. So I'm predisposed to things like endometriosis and fibromyalgia and myalgic encephalomyelitis and carpal tunnel syndrome and dislocations and postural orthostatic tachycardia, or different types of dysautonomias, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on, right? Yes, we all have a different mutation branch. And they don't like to do that. And it's really interesting. There is a test out there. It is called GenCept assay. GenCept ASSAY. GenCept assay. And it is a pharmacogenic test, and it covers like 170, 120, 170, somewhere in there, different kinds of psychiatric medications or medications that work with the brain and the nervous system and that kind of stuff, chemicals there, hormones. But they don't just do it. You have to do the due diligent thing here, where I live anyways. So we have to fail trials on several different medications before moving on to the next one. Instead of just, let's save the patient a whole lot of friggin' headache and time and do the test and see which medications will help, right? Especially for conditions like depression, anxiety, and those kinds of things, right? I am a firm believer that those types of things always come from somewhere, so get to the root cause. And because a lot of the care involved in mental health is self-directed. And whether we like hearing that or not, it's a fact. Like getting out into nature, going for a walk, doing those exercises. I know we don't want to hear them. Eating right. We don't want to hear that. We really don't. We don't want the doctor to say that. We've been conditioned, like I started to say at the very beginning of the show, we have been conditioned in Western medicine to believe that when we go to the doctor and tell them what is wrong with us, they will give us a pill, we will take it, and we will be better. Hiking, yes, and eating right. Yes, instead we're like science experiments. I feel like that sometimes, So I've gone from being on like 29 different medications to only a handful now. I have done a lot of my own homework. I have done a lot of my own self-directed care and healing. I took the education so that I could learn how to do that. And now I want to pay it forward and pass it on. Hey, how's it going? Welcome in, guys. This is the Beehive Live. I'm here usually Monday to Friday at 12 noon Central Time. This week, we are talking about medical self-advocacy. Tomorrow, I have herbal meds. I have lots of herbal meds as well. Tomorrow, we have a guest coming on to talk about her experience with advocacy, self-advocacy, and having to advocacy for a loved one. Yes, there's a lot of different people. When people have knowledge is power, honestly. And when we support each other as a community, then we can create change that needs to happen. Because like I said, this is a system that is built by human beings, and human beings are imperfect. And something that is built by a human being has the capacity to fail. And, these things, they fail people sometimes. So this is our medical advocacy. If you're just tuning in and you missed the first bit of the show, you can catch that on YouTube. I am recording. I'm taking notes. I will be uploading the video to my YouTube channel. If you're interested in that, you can hop over there after. Let me ask you this. How do you manage your symptoms? Because addiction, you have symptoms, right? You have people that live with addiction, they have. Yes. Yeah, how do you, I'm curious to know how do you manage your symptoms? Do you use community support? Do you use like AA meetings or NA meetings? Do you use that type of community support? Do you use online support? One of you said music is therapy, so Star Maker, which is where I do these lives primarily. Star Maker is a music app and a singing app, and so it's a really great tool for sure. Working out, martial arts. Yeah. That's awesome. Awesome. Good job, you guys. Like, that's hard. You know, I come from families that had lots of addicts, and I was married to someone who lived with addiction, or lives with addiction. For 17 years I was with someone. So I understand how difficult it can be to make those changes, if not for yourself, for the people that love you. And cold turkey. Online support, yeah. Online support is key for people, I think, a lot of the times nowadays, especially because you have that 24/7 access, right? And so if you're struggling with a day or a moment and you need support right now, you don't have to like pick up the phone and call and book an appointment and whatever. You can open up your phone. You can read other people's stories. You can put your story in. You can do things like this right now. One of the very first guest appearances on the show was with a former addict, alcoholic. She was an alcoholic and a drug user. And she was also a professional wrestler. And it was a really impactful interview. Anyway, this woman, who, by the way, runs a recovery program in the live room 5 to 8 every Sunday morning, Central Time. She made choices when she was under the influence. She made choices to get behind the wheel of a car, and as a result, an entire family died. And so I don't have that interview uploaded to my YouTube channel yet, but I still have it on. I told her yesterday, I stopped into her meeting yesterday real quick to say hi and offer some support. And I still have her interview, and I have to edit and upload it to my YouTube channel. Maybe I'll do that today when I'm doing this one. So it's very hard. Yes. Strangers, perfect strangers can help each other. This is why I started this show. My mother passed away, and I had this moment in the kitchen afterwards and heard her, and with Saphira. Is that who you're talking about, Shelly? Are you for real right now? If you did, that's amazing. I love you. Because I'm missing like the first... Oh, I love you so much! I'm missing the first like 15 minutes or so of it. And it was an amazing... Sapphira is, if you don't know her, Sapphira Maru is her name. And she is the captain of Synchronicity, I think her family name is. She is an amazing speaker, and she is an amazing inspiration. PKs from people that I don't know. And that is for my safety and the safety of all of the people watching. Everything I do is scheduled. So this is Hive Live, and I'm here Monday to Friday from 12 noon Central Time. This week I will not be here on Wednesday. This week is Medical Advocacy Week. If you missed the talk for the first hour, I've been having some technical difficulties here for the last little bit, but if you missed the first hour, I am going to be editing that and posting it up on YouTube. I cannot guarantee when that is going to be available. So, maybe on Wednesday. So I've got some interviews that I'm going to work on getting edited and put up onto YouTube as well. We are a little bit technically challenged here. One, I am not that savvy. I can muddle my way through, but I really, for the most part, I don't know what I'm doing. Fake it till you make it though, right? So we're covering medical self-advocacy this week because it's such an important topic of discussion, because so many of us have encountered situations where we've been dismissed, or we've been overlooked, or we've been gaslit, or the system has failed us. And it's very, very important to know how to navigate a system that is failing people, or a system that is breaking. So I'm going to have the medical self-advocacy videos available for people to watch on my YouTube channel after this. I'm recording everything. I'm taking notes from people. You guys give me so much insight. Happy tasking. Thank you for coming by. You guys give me so much insight in these episodes. And I get thinking outside of my regular box. Like, usually I'm a pretty big thinker, and I can look at all different perspectives simultaneously. And I can tell you what that person is feeling about the situation, or I can tell you what the person on the other side is feeling about the situation. Like, I'm very much a bird's eye view kind of person. I like to look at the whole picture. I want to stand back and I want to observe. So by engaging in the chat, engaging in the audience, that gives me an opportunity to hear other perspectives and see sort of what people are taking away from these episodes. I know that to date, I have had really, really good feedback on the Beehive Live, on the message that it is sending out into the community, and on what people have gained from these episodes. And so this is why I keep doing them, because this is how I can continue to work. I have a very specific I don't know what the word is. I'm trying to, I'm getting so much coming in at me all at once. I haven't done these shows in a while, so I'm just like, it feels really overwhelming at this moment. Tomorrow we're going to have a guest on. Our guest tomorrow is going to be talking on her own experience with her own self-medical advocacy, and then also the advocacy of her spouse. there's going to be a content warning on tomorrow's show because it will be triggering for some people. It is a heartbreaking story, and this is somebody's real life experience. And so we're going to approach with a lot of compassion and openness, because I think it's very important to allow people the space that they need to talk about these things. And some people that come here with me are talking about these things for the very first time publicly. So for me, that is a very important thing, to allow people the space and that sense of safety. It is this week, Hive Live. We are talking about medical self-advocacy. Today we went over what it is to advocate for yourself. What does advocacy mean? What does self-advocacy mean? What a couple people shared. I do need a phone stand. I know. I need to invest in some equipment. So if you missed the first half of the show, and I've been having some technical difficulties along the way, so I will be posting an edited version. I think it's important for people to hear. Sorry, I've got like cord issues here, and oh my goodness, my office is just a disaster right now. I think it's important for people to hear from the practitioner's perspective, and the practitioner can share questions, that they need to hear as well. But unfortunately, I have not heard back from him yet. So if by some miracle I hear back from him between now and Thursday, I may have some insight from the practitioner's perspective. Otherwise, I'm just going to be doing my own research between now and then to share the practitioner's perspective without actually talking to a practitioner, about reading stories and whatever I do for my research, because I like real people research over studies and whatnot. So yeah, tomorrow we have our guest. Wednesday I will not be here. Thursday will be a combination probably of the practitioner's perspective and sorry guys, I've got to see what Wednesday is here, and I don't, where did it go? Thursday. Is that it? Yes. No. Yes. Sorry, I'm a little flaky. Thanks, Jamie. You're so sweet, Okay, so Wednesday is going to be combo with Thursday this week, because I won't be here Wednesday. And Wednesday's plan was to deliver you guys some self-advocacy tools. So things that you'll need when you're faced with some health problems and you need to advocate for yourself or a loved one, whether it's your child, your spouse, your mother, father, grandparent, aunt, uncle. So Thursday I'll talk about the tools, questions you can ask, things that you can do to prepare for appointments, and just some things that you can say and do to advocate for yourself. And that's going to be from a patient perspective, but it's also, I'm going to deliver you some information from a practitioner's perspective as well on Thursday. Because I think that it's really important for people to know that if we're not asking for the right help, then we're not going to get the right help. And so that is a big part of the problem. And I think we don't even realize it's a part of the problem. That's okay though. So this is going to be recorded. I'll be putting it on my YouTube channel. If you haven't yet, head on over to YouTube to the Beehive broadcast. I do have a couple of interviews already posted up on there. I'm going to be posting a lot more of these over on YouTube. I just need to get myself into a new groove and into a new system. This is new for me, this planning. All of this. I've been flying by the seat of my pants. Timer hits 40 minutes. So self-advocacy week this week, medical self-advocacy, something that is not being talked about enough. People are not educated enough on what they need to do and the questions they need to ask in such a fragmented system that is failing people. And I think this information is important. It's important to share. It's important to share our stories. So tomorrow we have a guest coming on to share her experience and why advocacy matters so much, especially when it comes to our health. Every single human being at one point or another will have to deal with the healthcare system, with a health issue, whether it's for themselves or whether it's for a loved one. It doesn't matter. At one point or another, you will have to deal with healthcare. And with modern healthcare or Western healthcare, the way that it is a system that is designed by humans. Anything designed by humans can fail. And when things fail, people get hurt. And if we are educated and equipped with the proper tools to advocate for ourselves and advocate for our loved ones, then we don't run as much of a risk of being hurt in a system that is failing. Okay. And Thursday I will talk to you about tools. We're going to go over self-advocacy tools, and I'm going to talk to you about self-advocacy from the practitioner's perspective, because what happens if we are getting dismissed and dismissed and dismissed, but what happens if it's our own lack of knowledge being the reason why we're getting dismissed? So we're going to talk about some of those tools that we can go into our appointments with, and not just from a patient perspective, but also from the practitioner's perspective, because they can teach us. It's very much a team thing when you're working with a doctor or any type of practitioner, whether it's a natural practitioner, holistic. You need to work with your doctor. That means open line of communication both ways, not just one way. So we're talking about this all week this week on the Beehive Live. I'm